salty athletes and an incredibly dominant comeback. This is the T100 Round 8 in Dubai, and this is the women's race. The men's race was earlier on the same day, and I've already analyzed it, so go watch that video as well. But with this being the second last race of the season, the race to Qatar is heating up, and we see the standings. Kate Waugh leading with 128 points. Lucy Charles-Barclay and Ashley Gentle not here today. So could anybody make a step up? Taylor Spivey out of contention when it comes to the overall classification, but still trying to get a good result here. Jessica Learmonth in 5th place right now. She is a big favorite for this race today, coming fresh of a really good race in Wollongong. Julie Derrons, the comeback after her injury. She had a bike crash. It took her longer than she thought to recover, and now she's here. She is one of the big favorites, but the biggest of them all and the leader of the overall classification, Kate Waugh, she has the chance to almost wrap it up. And this is the course, this is the swim, 2 laps, 1 kilometer each. So we have the Aussie exit, and so the women are lining up for the second to last race of the season. The gun goes and they go into the water, and the front position is really important. And I want you to pay attention to the right hand side, because that's Kate Waugh. She is going the Vincent Luis way. Again, if you didn't watch the men's race, you probably should, because some really interesting stuff happened there already in the swim. And Kate Waugh, right from the gun, goes a very, very, very different line than anybody else, going further right again. We take a look at the conditions. The race is later than the men's race, so it's even hotter. And again, this is a really tough one. Adding that the conditions have worsened on the swim. We see the waves. They are much, much bigger. Not huge waves, but still they are much bigger than they were in the men's race. And this is because the wind has picked up. Even in the back, you can see a kite surfer going his ways while the women are swimming here. And we see a little front group building itself right now, with Kate Waugh trying to make it as hard as possible right from the start, because she really did not do any heat preparation for this race, which is absolutely insane considering those conditions. But it also just shows how good she is, because she is able to compete in this race and to get onto the front in the swim. Just shows what magic form she is on this year. It's absolutely incredible. The first few gaps starting to appear though, and Kate Waugh is going at an extremely fast pace. Unfortunately, the men's race was still going on while the women were racing, so we did not get a lot of picture from the swim of the women, and so we move forward onto the first Aussie exit. But through their first lap there was a change of leadership, because first out of the water is in fact Zara Perez-Salah, obviously a great swimmer herself, and so she decided to take the pacing onto herself, with the green cap of Jess Learmonth coming out second and Kate Waugh just behind her. We have Taylor Spivey here in 4th place out of the water, so really good swim from her, and a bit of distance between the last two guys. And importantly, we look at the red cap is Julie Derrons. So a good swim. She said afterwards it was really tough. She was really struggling and trying to hold on. And the interesting thing right here is how late into the water some of the athletes are dolphin diving. You see right now Kate Waugh in 4th position actually doing another dolphin dive. So it's very flat going into the water, and you can obviously save a bit and gain a bit of speed as well when dolphin diving. And then we see this. So Kate Waugh on the front again, really going her own way again. You see the white buoys on the sand, and she is again just going away from the ideal line, exactly like Vincent Luis did it. So somebody watched this race and the group whittled down, and out of the water first is Jess Learmonth. Again, unfortunately, not a lot of footage available from that women's swim. So Jess gets out of the water in 1st position, with Kate Waugh and Zara Perez-Salah being the back of that first group. Taylor Spivey obviously there as well. And we take a look, 27.3 seconds. So not a crazy fast swim, but also not extremely slow. They really had tough conditions out there, with the second group of Holly Lawrence, Georgia Taylor-Brown and Julie Derrons losing over 30 seconds. So already a gap, and we see how important cooling is as Jess Lehmann takes on a helmet, the cold water coming out of every opening of that helmet. Georgia Taylor-Brown putting on the helmet as well, and just next to her, Julie Derrons also going onto the bike course, which is obviously very technical as we saw with the men's race. We will take a look right now. The bike, 80 kilometers with that 14-kilometer lead up onto the circuit, and then really technical. A lot of turns, a lot of dead turns as well, so the cornering ability of human and machine would really be tested, because you can make up a lot of time in those turns and gain a lot on your competitors. And as we look onto the bike course, Sada Perez Salah, who came first out of transition, has already lost 2 placings because Jess Lehmann and Kate Waugh both went past her straight away. Taylor Spivey is still behind her though. And when we look further down that list on your left, Julie Derrons came out 23 seconds behind the front, with Holly Lawrence and Georgia Taylor-Brown just behind her. Everybody else over 1 minute down after the swim, so they would not play a huge role in this race anymore, as we see Taylor Spivey doing up her shoes as they just came out of T1. And just a few minutes later, Julie Derrons had already caught up to that front group. She's now just behind Taylor Spivey taking the corner, and this is really important. She is in contention to get the race victory. And then unfortunately we lose them for a while again, because the men's race finished, and after 1 hour and 13 minutes and 31 kilometers on the bike, this is how we're leading on. Julie Derrons is leading with Jess Lehmann in second place, and if you look at P17, Kate Waugh seems to be a whopping 8.5 minutes down, but this is actually not true, I can tell you that. She is with that front group. Georgia Taylor-Brown with Sada Perez Salah in one group, 1 minute 45 back, and Holly Lawrence just behind them. Taylor Spivey losing a lot of ground since getting on the bike after having a decent enough swim. She could not hold on, and the pace was really just way too high for her. This is now Kate Waugh coming into picture. So she's looking comfortable, but she is on the back of this group, and this is basically how they would do this entire bike leg. In front it's Julie Derrons or Jess Lehmann, and Kate Waugh does not see the front a single time this bike leg. And now we take a look at something really interesting, the corners. Look how cautiously she takes this corner, not moving fully to the right on the entry, and then really slowing down and getting the bottle out after the corner. So she could have done this on the entry. It does not really matter by a huge amount, but still it disturbs your aerodynamic a bit. And just a few corners later, again, she's not really comfortable. No one of these women was really comfortable right from the start on this very technical circuit. And my best guess is that it's because of the conditions of the road. You see on the right, the sand is really close to the road, even on the road. And anybody who's ever ridden a bike knows sand is basically your #1 enemy. We get now to the first feed zone, and this is really how you should not approach a feed zone. She's already in the feed zone, but still getting the last bottle filled into her tank, and she throws it away, tries to get a new one, but that obviously is way too short amount of time. And this is how you absolutely do not approach a feed zone. And she immediately gets overtaken by Julie Derrons because she just loses some time, right? But she would be able to make up that time quite easily again, because she is the best bike handler in this group and also the most powerful rider in this group. The entire bike she dominated, and this is how you take a corner. She's coming up right here to a 180-degree hairpin. And I want you to pay close attention on Julie Derrons on the front. Look at the line she is taking into this corner. The corner is coming up. They're both moving towards the right because this is a left-hand turn. And Julie Derrons goes just onto the white line, but Jess Lehmann opening the corner up even further, going over the white line, misses the apex slightly, but still being able to carry more speed out of this. But even she struggled with the technical nature. We see this corner downhill, fast right-hander, completely missing the apex. So a few tenths of a second lost. And if you do this every lap, remember they do this corner 8 times, this adds up. Kate Waugh with another example here. They were really not comfortable, leaving a lot out on the road. As we get our first look at Georgia Taylor-Brown after more than half of this bike leg. And really interestingly, look at the bands at the back of her seat post. These are her bottle cages, and she is fixating those bottles with these bands. But when there's no bottle in that cage, you obviously can't fixate it. So these athletes spend so much money and so much time and resources on wind tunnel testing, on the best equipment, just to have some rubber bands dangling at the back of their seat post. The same goes for Jess Learmonth. We see this here, and this is not a huge cost. You know, she's relatively big as an athlete, so the rubber bands are really protected, but it still does something, and it still costs you just that fraction of a second every kilometer. And sometimes it's a bit ironic how the sport is so technical and everything is measured, but we just let some rubber bands influence our aerodynamics. We see Georgia Taylor-Brown also going a really wide line into this corner, and Sara Perez Salah decided and managed to stick with Georgia through this corner. She's definitely not taken the ideal line there, but we got our next group. After 60k, we look at the standings again, and it's still the front group with Kate Waugh seeming to be in front. She's not. Jess Learmonth is still up front, and Taylor-Brown, Sara Perez Salah managed to stick with each other for a long time, working and not really closing the gap, but also limiting the losses. Holly Lawrence would be dropped from them, and Lisa Pertera, Taylor Spivey are at this point more than 5 minutes behind the lead. This right-hand turn though, really symbolic. You see the athletes not hitting the apex at all, and we can clearly see sand also in this corner. So definitely not the ideal course, definitely very sandy, and so the athletes were really careful in order to not crash, which is understandable. As we get a look at Holly Lawrence here, she is working extremely hard, and that is shown on the time gap, because compared to 10 kilometers before, she lost only 2 seconds, and Lisa Pertera actually managed to get some time back. She would cross that 5-minute threshold to the lead group, but that would change soon, because Jess Learmonth is on the way back to get into the lead to push on. But this overtake is really not the spot to do. Around the outside on a left-hand turn, with the speed being very low. Again, another one of these moments where it just costs you a little bit, not much, but these little things will add up. And we look at the time gaps again. After 72 kilometers, 1 lap to go, Taylor-Brown and Sara Perez Salah had separated. Perez Salah not able to go the pace of Taylor-Brown. Holly Lawrence just managing to get a few seconds back, and Lisa Pertera again over that 5-minute threshold. So the gaps did not change much over those last laps, but they were big. And the reason why they were so big is because this bike leg was just so intense. The heat, the technical nature of the circuit made for some incredibly sweaty athletes. And with the salt you can see on Kate Waugh's suit here, you could season your entire meal 3 times over probably. So really hot race, and the athletes sweat a lot, so it's important to take on the fluids. The same goes for Jess Learmonth. Look at her pants. They are just so incredibly salty, which just shows how much electrolytes they lost over the course of this race, and how much they also needed to replenish those electrolytes. So it became a race of nutrition as well as a race of the legs, because it was just so extremely hot. And so we come on to the final parts of this bike course. You see 79k already done, only 1 kilometer to go. This left-hander, the last really technical turn, and straight away after this corner, while they still have a good, I'd say, kilometer to go, Julie Derrons already opens her shoes and gets out of them as well, which is really interesting because there's a lot of time to go. We see the right foot has already been opened up, and so they get onto the transition, and see how much time Julie takes on Jess Learmonth. Jess Learmonth is still clipped in and still inside the shoes, while Julie Derrons goes absolutely ballistic without even being properly in the pedals. Jess now only getting out of the shoes, and Julie Derrons gets into transition first because of this slight mistake, you could say again, by Jess Lehmann. And this is how we basically finished the bike. Julie Derrons with absolutely the fastest time, Jess Lehmann and Kate Waugh within that group, and Georgia Taylor-Brown lost 4 minutes. Holly Lawrence and Zara Perez-Salah also in the fourth, Lisa Perterer and everybody else over 5.5 minutes behind. And so we get into transition, and Julie Derrons knows this is important to get out first. She takes on the shoes, no socks, and Kate Waugh only now comes in when Julie Derrons is already going out, although we're still in the same group technically. Kate Waugh choosing to put on the socks, also still needing to take the helmet off. Jess Lehmann now coming out of transition second, and Kate Waugh took a lot of time here compared to the other guys, but also she would manage to get onto the run course, which we're going to take a look at now. 8 laps again, 2.2 kilometers each, again really technical. And just after going onto the run, Kate Waugh already made up the lost time in transition to Jess Lehmann, moving up into second place, while Jess Lehmann is now on the final podium spot. And they make their way onto the first aid station of this run course. And it's really interesting how difficult the nutritional tactics are for these two women. Jess Lehmann just choosing to get absolutely everything all over her to cool her down, 2 bottles. And we see something interesting, what we only saw last year, because as they come down this very steep hill, you see this little side of pavement on your left, and Jess Lehmann, for the entirety of this run, we're going to see some examples later on as well, moves onto this pavement. I'm not entirely sure why that is. We saw it more last year at the T100, but it's really interesting because she was the only one to choose those tactics. Taylor-Brown now in transition, smiling, talking, asking for the gap. She's obviously over 3.5 minutes behind and has a lot of work to do for a podium. We see some other athletes, Holly Lawrence and Zara Perez-Salah, now coming in. Zara Perez-Salah really losing some ground at the latter part of this bike course though, and so she would have a lot to make up if she wanted to stay in a good position here. Holly Lawrence opting to sit down as well, which is interesting. Only person to do this as far as I know this weekend, but it just helps get the rhythm down a little bit. And this is an interesting statistic because we see the race to Qatar, and this is how it stands if we're finishing like this. Kate Waugh would still be leading, but the gap to Julie Derrons is much closer now. And Julie Derrons is slowly but surely being reeled in by Kate Waugh. We see only 7 seconds at the last checkpoint, and this is lap 2. And Kate Waugh has already made up a lot of time, and the catch is about to be made. Georgia Taylor-Brown getting some incredible coaching from this guy over the barriers. I'm not sure if it's allowed. The technical officials definitely did not relegate her for this and did not give out any penalties. So this is how we basically stack up now. Could Kate Waugh catch Julie Derrons? We see Jess Lehmann 1 lap later again opting for the pavement, and just so much water on her, so she maybe had some trouble cooling down. And after lap 3, we see the gap has extended again. It's now 12 seconds from the run to Kate Waugh, coaching again for Taylor-Brown. So Kate Waugh losing some ground here, and this is basically the race over because Julie Derrons is just too good and too controlled to lose something like this. Kate Waugh didn't do any heat prep, as I said, so she probably also didn't have the best legs on the run. And so after 4 laps, half the run course done, Julie Derrons would have a gap on 35 seconds to Kate Waugh and over 2 minutes on Jess Lehmann. And after lap 5, we see the gap has exploded. Only 1 lap later, 2.2 kilometers, and the gap is over 1 minute with Jess Lehmann almost being at 3 minutes now. Taylor-Brown already 5 minutes 40 behind. Another feed zone for Jess Lehmann, cooling herself down as well. And again, we see her moving onto the pavement. My only guess is that it was a bit more grippy here compared to the asphalt, and that she obviously could take the turn a bit better and it was a bit more comfortable for her. But really, this does not make any big difference. It was just interesting to see because last year Alistair Brownlee crashed here because these corners, these tight corners coming out of a very, very steep run sections are not easy with those big running shoes. Julie Derrons, after 6 laps, the gap has increased even more. So we all knew at this point, this race is over. She came back from the crash and had a really dominant race today. And suddenly, after following Georgia Taylor-Brown on the side of the road, there's Sara Perez-Sala. Unfortunately, just some heat exhaustion or whatever it was. She went too deep. She lost. After 60k on the bike, she really started to drop and she would eventually, unfortunately, DNF this race. Again, another look at the standings. So extremely interesting. Jess Lehmann now in 5th place, but a lot of points behind Kate Waugh. So she's probably not in contention for the overall title if it finishes like this. But the battle to Qatar is on for these women, and it would only stay the same. I would like to talk about cornering on the run. Really important. Julie Derrons going into this right-hand turn for us, left-hand turn for her. Outside, inside, and then outside again. So beautiful cornering technique. Also on the run, you can make up and lose some time, but it wouldn't matter today as she moves on to the last lap after 3 hours and 19 minutes. The next lap, she needs to turn right here and she goes on to her last lap. Really dominant race, and there's nobody that came close to her today. And so she wins this race, 3 hours and 27 minutes on the clock. Her first race back on the T100 and setting her up really nicely, setting us up really nicely for a good fight in Qatar, because Kate Waugh comes in second, scores points as well, but it's really close. And so the competition for Qatar is on. Jess Lehmann would finish 3rd place, really good result for her. And this is a beautiful moment after the finish line. She's standing there, Julie Derrons congratulating her, so really cool to see this. Kate Waugh coming in, but there's somebody more important here. The little boy, of course, he needs to be picked up first. Now, only now, can Kate Waugh congratulate her, giving her a high five to the boy. And this is the end of this race. Julie Derrons winning in front of Kate Waugh and Jess Lehmann, with Georgia Taylor-Brown, Holly Lawrence and Taylor Spivey being in the top 6. And everyone behind them is already over 10 minutes down. This is the standings as we move into Qatar, the last T100 race of the season. I'm really excited to see this one because it's a big one. Lucy Charles-Barclay will be back and everybody will be on their best legs to finish the season off. I hope you like this one, and if you don't want to miss anything else, the preview to Qatar and the analysis to both the men's and the women's races, then stay subscribed and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.